Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight. Of course, I'm with Techie Joe tonight. How are you, darling?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm here. What do you think of the new show, new opening?
I like the new bean footage.
Cool.
I like the new bean footage. It's very nice.
Good. All right. So we're going to dive into some things tonight. First one, I'm kind of a little pissed at.
I was kind of being judgy by the title and went, ooh, that's ethically a little. But okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I was trying to reserve judgment a little and be like, maybe it was an accident.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's an accident.
Right.
Sort of one of those, sometimes you say something thinking it's no, and it is not.
I've seen
Not
this
that.
happen too many times.
Okay, so a psychic told me my son had a major secret. Turns out she was right. I kept quiet about it. So that comes to us from Slate, and it's a Dear Karen Feeding. So, Dear Karen Feeding, 2 years ago, during a rough time in my life, I consulted a psychic. She told me many things, but one of them was that my son was gay and hiding it from me. I was surprised, but found it wasn't that shocking of a revelation, and I kept quiet about it. Not all that long afterwards, I found some messages that confirmed what the psychic had said. However, in all this time, Kyle, now 17, has never come out to me or otherwise said or done anything to indicate he's comfortable with me knowing his sexual orientation. I don't understand why. I've always maintained open and honest communication with him, and I've always been supportive of unfairly persecuted minorities. I'm hurt that he feels the need to hide this from me, but I also realize that his feelings take priority here, and clearly I haven't done enough to make him feel comfortable enough in our relationship and to be able to predict my reaction for him to open up to me. I guess what I'm asking is, how can I make him more comfortable so that he will admit that he's gay? It's hard to pretend that I don't know. Don't want to keep signed. Don't want him. Want to keep him in the closet. All right. Do you want me to go ahead and read the response, or
yes, read the response, and then I want to tackle this bullshit.
Okay, so Dear Closet, please don't make this all about you. You say his feelings take priority, but you're focusing on your hurt feelings and asking me how to make him comfortable enough with you to admit his sexuality. I hate to break it to you, but his sexuality is none of your business unless he wants it to be. I can't tell you why he hasn't come out to you. There are too many possibilities. One is that he doesn't want to talk to his mom about his sexual desires or sex life. One is that your relationship with him is not as open and honest as you think it is. A lot of parents think their children tell them everything when that has no basis in reality. Another is that you're being supportive of persecuted minorities is not sufficient reason for him to be certain you'll embrace the news and not merely tolerate or accept it if he comes out to you, and he doesn't want to tell you if he thinks you'll say something other than, I love you. Thank you for telling me. Yet another is that he objects on principle to the very idea of coming out. Why should he or anyone have to? I can think of plenty of other reasons too, but in the long run, it doesn't matter why he hasn't told you. What matters is that you keep your eye on the prize, his well-being. He may never tell you in the way you want him to. It's possible that he may just come home one day with a boyfriend. In the meantime, if you have an act that needs cleaning up, if you've casually said or done anything homophobic, if you've fretted out loud about anyone else's child who turned out to be gay, if you've teased him about girlfriends or the lack of them, or done anything else that might give him pause about letting you know who he is, clean it up. Oh, and by the way, don't ever repeat that finding of messages that transpired when he was 15. Don't think of what you know and say it with me now. are not going to confront him with as a secret. Don't think about having to pretend you don't know something that you think you do know. Just be his parent, love him and support him, period. Because really, what difference does it make what his sexuality is? It's his sexuality.
All right. One, I think the advice column has done wonderful. My bigger problem, however, is A, consulting on a minor sex life that's none of that psychic's damn business.
Good start there. Yep.
2, saying that in a reading. There is no reason to bring up that. There's no reason to be talking about that. There's no reason to be outing someone in a situation or any situation.
I mean, there's a lot of things to consider there. One, like on the professional level, I think it's a lot to assume that you know best to tell a client that.
Right.
And not think that you're potentially meddling in a parent-child relationship in a way that, one, you have no business meddling in, to start with.
Right.
But two, in a way that, like, if you're wrong.
Well, not only that, but she could have put this child's life at risk.
Well, that's where I was going, was if you're wrong, you could needlessly put someone in danger.
Right.
Like danger of being homeless, danger of any number of things.
Right.
And more to the point, you're basically outing someone.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I think there are some very few instances in which it is reasonable, even though I may not always appreciate it, to out someone. If you are a member of our, representatives, and you are voting on laws that directly negatively impact TQ people,
right?
I think that's one of the few instances in which outing someone has merit.
Right.
It doesn't make it a good thing, but I can understand.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is telling the parent of a minor child this in any circumstance.
Yeah. None of their business. I'm mortified that the psychic even brought this up.
Okay. Now, do you think it's possible that this is a little bit of a client misstatement of what actually happened? Like, could it legitimately be the psychic said your son is hiding a big secret because he's, uncomfortable telling you? The parent finds the text messages, pops those two together, and out pops this story.
No. You do not read under 18. You don't read sex life under 18. I don't care what it is. I don't care if he's banging the whole cheerleading crowd. Not mother's business.
No, I get that, but if you're, again, depending upon the conversation you're having with a client, I'm just asking, is it possible that, like, this is the story version, and then what actually happened was, if mom is talking to you, calls it, I don't understand why I'm having such a problem with my son, and he just, I don't know what's going on. I just don't feel very close to him anymore.
Well, that happens in teenage years, darling. He's progressing and working on his own lessons.
Okay.
Done. End of story. Move on to the next topic.
Okay. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's a legitimate version in which, like, that's what happened, but that's not what happened.
Right.
And, like, she pieced it together, and then this is the version she gives.
Exactly.
Yeah, Brenda says, still saying your son has a secret was wrong. It just makes her want to know and dig more. This is
Right.
true.
And could be a feeder situation, which I don't agree with either.
Okay.
Oh, your son has a secret. 1 minute warning.
Oh, I get what you mean. It's cliffhanger.
Yeah.
To get her to recharge and continue.
Yeah. Nah. None her business.
No. One, I think if it was that direct, that's just horrible. Right. Two, if it's a cliffhanger, it's like, what fucking teenager doesn't?
Right.
Like, Jesus, I'm sorry, if you can achieve puberty, you've got some secrets.
Yeah.
They may not be earth-shattering to the rest of the world, like, yeah, there's a shocker. But you know what I mean? But right. Like, to you in that moment, it's a big secret.
Again, he's a 15-year-old male. No
right.
need to be no reason to be digging.
Well, I was just going with the theory that, if it was dropped as a cliffhanger, it's like, that is such a shitty cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
So, a teenager has a secret. News at 11.
Right. But, exactly. But at the same time, I don't care how this happened. In my opinion, that is against ethical bylaws. It is against...
Well, it's a crappy reading style. It's sincerely horrible reading style.
Exactly.
But there are clients.
Right.
There's whole businesses that support it.
Right.
That encourage this kind of cliffhanger mentality to keep getting clients to recharge as much as possible. And it's out there, and it sucks. It's a horrible way to do a reading.
Right.
Just like, 1 minute warning. Here's your cliffhanger, so you'll call back later. And or companies call it a bunch of different things.
Yeah. I don't like them. Yeah. I don't do them. I think they're bullshit. I think that is one hair away from a scam artist.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm not even going to be that kind about it. It is scamming. It's the same to me as the emails that companies will send out that, you have a secret love waiting for you. Click and call now.
Right.
And we've run into, I should say, companies that have sent those and created hell, havoc, and chaos.
Right.
With clients who are like, what?
Yeah. I've been married for 30 years. What the hell are you asking me about a secret love?
Or more importantly, they're calling in to find out more. Like, they're because technically in statistics, you're going to find out that that's a really good come on to yank someone in and screw with them mentally. And then they call in, and because I know it did happen to one of the clients.
It happened to one of the networks. Yes.
Yeah. Is they sent out that kind of message, and one of our clients got really upset about it because she had a client call in who just was pissed.
Right.
Because they called in for a love and relationship reading, didn't drop the I got your email until after she did the reading.
Right.
And, nothing in there was there's a secret love. It was just like, yeah, everything's going well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And then they went off about, well, I got an email that you said.
Right.
Because the way it was sent out as it was from the advisor.
Actually, the way it was sent out was that it was from an advisor that isn't an advisor. Like, nobody knows this bitch.
Even better. Oh, yeah, that was the whole situation. Yeah, it was multi-layers of problems.
Yeah. Like, there isn't one. She isn't on the site. There isn't, like...
It was a whole invented human.
It was a whole invented pain in my ass.
Yeah, it was a giant mess. But then in like the beginning of finding out that this had occurred was one of our clients who went through one of their clients blowing up on them because this was bullshit.
Right.
It was a complete fabrication.
Right.
Oh, Brenda says, I've got a secret love. They'll either tell me or they won't.
Right. But you don't
God,
go
that's how that
digging,
goes.
like, in this time and day, when we've got teachers being forced by law to out, psychics, knock it the fuck off.
Yeah, no, please don't. Please don't play with that. Like,
Yeah.
and I think some of it is like not really thinking through the ramifications and the ethics of what you're doing. Is while yes, that may be part of predicting or talking on your client's future,
Right.
that really isn't about the client.
Exactly.
Like, just because you see it,
Right.
and more importantly, do you want to interfere with it?
Right.
Like, if you're seeing this and you're seeing this going well and you're seeing this, please understand, if you're dropping that on someone who was totally unexpecting to hear their 15-year-old is gay, even if you're right, you just started someone on a path of trying to effectively out their child. Like, make them
One way or
comfortable,
another.
make them
Either
feel
in a
okay.
Right. Either in a positive or another
negative.
positive.
Mm-hmm. So you may influence the outcome.
Right.
Like, you've changed the energy of the situation that if flash forward 2 years, he does come out,
Right.
that was going to be a different experience
Mhm.
for both the client and him than this moment where she's going to have to try to bite her tongue and not say, oh, I already knew that.
Well, not only that, but it's going to create odd energy, and this is why I tell people, sometimes you don't want to know, sometimes you don't ask. Yeah. But the other page of that is the psychic needs to be on the page of none your business, and don't be handing out, well, my gods, no, they didn't. Your guys don't give a damn what goes on in the bedroom.
But I think sometimes you do get shown things that you do have to interpret professionally and go, we don't play with that.
Right.
I mean, because it can be an inevitability, I would think.
Well, it is an inevitability. But, oh, I was forced to say, no, you weren't. Don't be handing me that bullshit. My God does not care about what a teenage boy is doing in his bedroom unless it's like making watercolors, building on his artistic career because he's going to repaint the 16th chapel.
Okay. But no, I mean, I do think some things are inevitable that you see, but I do think that is part of the professionalism, and I stress the word professionalism.
Right.
To know what you say and what you go,
right.
Not, no, don't play with that.
Right.
I mean, I think there have got to be moments where you're sitting there doing a reading and, like, you already know the husband's dying next week. You know the husband's dying next week.
Nope,
you see the funeral next week. No, you don't.
No, I don't. And here's why. I'll tell you point blank why. I told him a long time ago, I ain't seeing that shit. Yeah. Don't bring it on my screen. I don't want to know about it. I have not been promoted to God. I may have a divine spark, but I am not God.
But no, I think there, and I can't even say anything wrong against the client on this one.
No.
Like, this is all on the psychic advisor.
Exactly.
Like, you don't play with that.
You don't play with it. You don't touch it. You should not be doing this. Like when most youth in this country that is homeless is part of the rainbow family, don't touch it. Don't be putting people's lives at risk.
Yeah. Well, but even more to the point is, like, it is not germane to the client.
Right.
Like, I mean, maybe if you're trying to reassure a client that, you know, even if the question were along the lines of, you know, my son and I aren't very close right now, I'm very worried about that. You might go, well, I think it all resolves itself.
Right.
Like, I see it resolving itself, and leave it there. Like, that's all the client needs to know, is that this is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, legitimize, like, no, you're not wrong.
Right.
There's something. But it does resolve itself. It's just going to be a while.
Well, there's even more I can do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because believe me, if your child is in the closet, that ain't the number one reason they got a problem with you.
No. Well, I mean, there might be families out there that's literally the only thing they got is bad day.
Right.
Like, oh, the worst thing in my life.
Right.
And it's really, that's the worst thing you're dealing with. Okay, wow.
You know, you got
You are
hormones
living
going
well.
through, you got school exams going through, you got parents that do not understand themselves, you've got kids that do not understand themselves.
Mhm.
There's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I saw this and I about hit the roof. I'm like, this is bullshit.
No doubt. That was very much garbage.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. So let's rock on through, because, you know, this is something new popping up on the business side of things.
Okay, so why did Taffy Brodresser Ackner, excuse me, go to a psychic to fix her writer's block? The author of Long Island Compromise takes the Lit Hub questionnaire. So Taffy Brodresser Ackner's novel Long Island Compromise is available now from Random House. So we asked her a few questions about writing, reading, procrastination, and more.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you tackle writer's block? I used to pretend there was no such thing as writer's block as my very own mind game. I stopped working on Long Island Compromise, where I went through such a profound period of months where nothing good came out, that I actually went to a psychic to find out what was wrong with me. Actually, I went to the psychic because I thought maybe my character would go, and I'd never really been to one. But when I was there, she told me that my third eye was blocked, and suddenly it made all the sense in the world. Of course, my third eye, I am embarrassed to say, I gave her in excess of $100 to clear my third eye. I don't think whatever she did, nothing, was what cured me, though. What cured me was writing the next sentence, and then the next one, then the next one. We like to think of writing as spiritual, but actually it's just physics. So who is the person, or what is the place or practice that had the most significant impact on your writing education? Okay. Do we want to keep going through, or
No.
that was the piece that mattered?
That's the piece we're looking at here.
Okay.
I think it's interesting because I've consulted on books before. I've consulted with writers that have this problem. They hit writer's block. And I've really talked a lot about this on like the psyche that plans. We've talked about it a little bit over on modern on metaphysical today, and that is they're not refilling their creative well. Which I could see the third eye being tied to the creative well, because that's your mind. That's the gateway into your mind. I'm not happy about this. I paid her an extra $100 to clear my third eye. Why?
Oh, in what sense? Because that was an offered service from the psychic, because that was a ridiculous charge for a ridiculous service, or because she's grumpy about having paid the $100?
Well, I'm grumpy because it wasn't like, okay, this is what you need to do. You have a problem with your inner mind. That's the reason you're not really getting anywhere with this. Mm-hmm. So to fix that, we need to do X, Y, and Z. Okay. To handle that, we need to, let me do some energy healing, on all of your chakras, not just the third eye, because you're going to imbalance one by working on it. It's a system. Okay, it's like if you clean up your RAM, you dust off the RAM of your computer, but you don't clean out the fan, there's a problem.
I almost think it could even be stated more easily than that in this situation. I don't think $100 was a bad payment. It sounds like she was writing a character she couldn't understand.
Right.
So she got to a point with the character where I can't write about you because I don't know you.
Right.
I can't understand your life experience. I can't understand who you are. I can't understand your motivation. I don't understand how you work.
Right.
But I know enough to start a character that sounds like this.
Right.
And then basically, yeah, go do the thing the character would do.
Right.
The epiphany moment occurs
Mm-hmm.
in which now you know more about this character. Even if this isn't who you are,
Right.
I think, like, if you, like, and she clearly says that I could totally see the character doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you understand the character. Now you've done what the character would do. Now you have depth for this character. And you can write about the experience from the perspective of the character that you've created, even if that's not who you are.
Right. And writers do this all the time. But also writers get very much neglectful of themselves, very much neglectful of their work, very much neglectful of the muses. And it's like, okay, so what are you doing? You've got writer's block. Why do you have writer's block? Well, you have writer's block because you're not concentrating. You have writer's block apparently because her third eye was not persistently rising to the occasion to be creative. Okay, I can chew that. I can chew the $100, but I would have treated the whole system, not just one piece of it.
Well, there's no saying that the provider did. I mean, I think some providers shorten it up and like, we've got to clear your third eye, and then it's like, yeah, do all the rest. Yeah, but that's the end result. Like, that's the actual fundamental problem.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we can't throw this out of balance either.
Right.
It's a whole process. But for the client, do they really need to know that if they're already at the point in which, like, I'm not really into this?
Well, I think they do.
This isn't,
because they need to understand the full experience they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you work on a system, do you not tell the client that you're also going to clean their system?
Depends. And that might be a more IT specific aspect than anything. Because the majority of my clients really, honest to God, do not care what I do as long as it works when I leave.
Oh, I think
Like,
they
how?
pull out a whole cat and a half of a couch out of their computer.
You'd be surprised, but no, they don't.
Okay.
Like, I'm dead serious. I've had, and it's not every client, but I've had some clients that are like, that honestly do not care what has to occur. Like, the most common thing in IT is you show up and they walk away.
Right.
Like, let me know when it's done.
Right.
And it's an actual process to get them to come back, because it's like, I need you to log in.
Right.
Like, I can do a lot, but you don't want me trying to work around your password.
Right.
Like, that's not how you want me to start this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It often has reminded me of what you call stump the psychic questions.
Mm-hmm.
Of, like, well, I'm not going to give you my name or date of birth. You're psychic. You should know that. And it's like, oh, don't start there.
Well,
Don't
that's
start
like
there.
Well, that's like, so you go to work on somebody's computer and they're like, it's in the house. Well, that's cute. Is it in the
Where?
kitchen? Where?
Yeah. Well, no, for me, it's the specific moment of like, here's the computer, it's broken, let me know when it's fixed. And they walk out of the room. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Get back in here.
Mm-hmm.
I need a starting point, which is it's logged in.
Right.
You don't have to give me that information, but you've got to be available to supply it to the computer.
Right.
You don't want me doing the things required
Mm-hmm.
for me to bypass your password and security,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to be real mad at the end of this experience when there's nothing on
Right. But at the same time,
it.
right. But at the same time, it's that point of, well, what do you mean it's broken? Is it running slow?
Yep.
Is it not operating? Like, what do you mean? For me, it's like, okay, you are general reading. I have no way to get a file for you. You don't have any questions. And why are you in my office?
Like, I've believe me, I've had computers show up in my career with people that wanted nothing more to do with it than the original like ticket or conversation, which it doesn't work.
Right.
The whole conversation so
Mhm.
far that I know anything about is it doesn't work.
Right.
And I've had to play the guessing game before, and you want an expensive repair that takes a lot of time,
Mhm.
telling me it doesn't work and walking away, or supplying me with the login and telling me that and walking away. This is going to take a while.
Yeah.
Because now I have to go through everything.
Right.
So this is going to be the longest possible drug out repair, because I'm just going to start guessing.
Right.
And whittling my way down a list. What do you
Right.
mean it doesn't work? What doesn't work? Now, if you supply that, if you give me a clue,
Mm-hmm.
we can cut 90% of the time it would take me to fix this down.
Right.
Word doesn't open. That's a beautiful starting place.
Right.
That gives me so much more of a narrow window to work in. But if you want to show up and be like, here's the PIN number or my password,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't work.
Right.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
See, I'm not that, because it's like, okay, you want a picture from 1995 that you took 3 computers ago.
Mm-hmm, that it's not here.
You can't
Like
seem
now,
to find it. That's a general reading to me. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with this shit?
I always thought the general reading kind of worked in the more so the sense of, well, tell me what I need to know. And then you're just sitting there going, well, that depends.
Yeah.
What?
Get
So
more
you
sleep.
want me to review everything,
Mm-hmm.
including past, present, and future. And you want me to pick out what I think in scrubbed video footage, which is how you've described it.
Right.
What I think it's important to say to you.
Mm-hmm.
Are
I get
you
these
kidding?
all the time, and it's like, okay, drink more water, get more sleep. Looks like you should probably be using sunscreen. I wouldn't be, hanging out with those females as often, because they look like they just give you pure trouble. And the people were like, but that's not what I wanted. And it's like,
Then ask a question.
then ask the question.
It doesn't even have to be a good question, but it gives me somewhere to start.
Right. Or tell me about my career. Great. You'll work in at least 6 jobs in your career. You'll finally get to a position where you're happy, and you'll retire at 65 and then go work at Walmart. I've said this to someone because that was what it showed. And they're like, that's not what I asked. And I'm like, you asked me to tell you about your career. I know, but I want to know when I get a promotion. You don't. You get a new job.
Ask that question. If that's what you want to know, ask that question.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about my career is a very broad topic.
Right.
Narrow it down a little.
Or my favorite is, I met a guy last night. Okay. You met 10 guys within the last 48 hours. What do you want to know about any of them? Or do you just want me to pick one?
Yeah. Or have fun with the fact of the one you thought is important is not important.
Right.
The one that is important, you don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Like,
Yeah,
save
well,
yourself some money.
Yeah. My other least favorite, it doesn't work. It is one of my least favorites, but my truly least favorite is it's slow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for the love of God, narrow it down. There are so many things that can be slow on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't want to give me that one either, because again, I'll fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with it because, quite frankly, I bill by the hour, and you agreed to that when you dropped it off.
Exactly.
So if you want me to take 10 hours to fix your system and go through everything that could be slow, oh, I will.
Oh, I get to pick Brenda's next guy. This shall be interesting. I want the biker that can actually make a good cup of coffee and looks to be a little bit grayish, but he dyes it now. And he probably worked construction in his early 20s, but now he has bad knees and does something in woodworking.
All right. Oh, now, does she actually know who this person is?
Debatable. She said I get to picking.
Yes. But no, I like, and that your mileage will vary. Like, did you pick
like
someone
he's
that's
within
good
her
for
file? Question is where is he?
Right, but is it he's good for her, or did you literally just pick the one that you like?
No, I think he'd be great for her. I think there'd be a lot of freedom in the relationship. I think there'd be a lot of emotional support going on in the relationship. I think she'll get annoyed with him all the time because he's always got projects going. But, you know, show me a man she hasn't gotten annoyed over that factor with.
Well, this is true. Meanwhile, she says, that's what I get for being a smartass. Yep. Again, like, and I'm sorry, I have done this while working in corporate IT. Like, I quit fighting the trouble tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had a whole system in place that the manager had to sign off before it came to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if a manager signed off on this very broad, which we told them why they were signing off on these, is because we kept getting requests that were unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
So we explained this to the whole company. If you want to waste IT resources,
mm-hmm.
then don't read them and just sign off on them.
Right.
Because that's what's going to happen.
Right.
So I would get a computer in, and I've had entire 8-hour days in which I did nothing but work on that computer trying to address it's slow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Bet. I can take 8 hours doing this without a problem because there's a lot of things that could meet that definition.
Right.
And I had zero guilt.
Mm-hmm. Well, that company, I would have had no guilt at all.
And I'm limited to the scope of a computer. Has limited number of applications and uses for our employees. I know what software they have.
Right.
I know generally what they do in their job and roughly what sites they go to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can take 8 hours doing that. Aeson is looking at your entire life. How long you think this reading can go for?
Right.
Like, general is a bad place to be.
Right.
Oh, Shannon says, I'm always a smart ass. Hey, Shannon.
Nice to see you, darling.
Oh, yeah. Shannon says, my boss loves that I've worked in IT before because it saves a lot of basic steps. So we can just be like, yeah, we did that. We need to do this now. I told him my computer was slow, and this is why, because my memory was shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had systems that, honestly, after 8 hours, the only thing that I was left to say about them was the system's garbage.
Right.
This company was really bad, by the way, about replacing systems.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the final conclusion to get to, is that, like, for the system itself, it's very competently capable of running within its spec.
Right.
So the problem is the system is 8 years old,
Mm-hmm.
has almost no RAM, and a single processor.
Right.
That's, I'm guessing, the slowness.
Well, it's probably slow because they can't get their what is that, solitaire to load fast enough.
Now, actually, I did have one, and honestly, at the end of it, I was just thinking about this. I did replace a computer for one of our people, and I had to go fight for it. He was a salesman, and he just so happened, real nice guy. I don't generally like salespeople, like salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy I actually did like. So it was either the quality of his sales or just him as a human being. I'm not sure.
Right.
But he was a real likable guy. He never complained. Never said a word about a complaint. Right. I went to get coffee one morning, and he just happened, like, we were having a little conversation. Bill was real nice. And he said something to the effect of, well, I guess I need to get back and see if I've booted in yet. And I don't know what it was, but it was something about the way he said it or whatever. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, my computer's a little slow. I was okay. So I was like, let me come take a look. So I went and we talked about it. Our work day started at 8.
Mm-hmm.
This man got there at 7.
Mm-hmm.
To turn on his computer, in hopes that it would be booted by 9:30.
Right.
He had done this for a couple of years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He was sitting there with a failing, and I've never seen a hard drive wait this long, but it was a failing hard drive. That's it. But by the point that I got to it, the computer's so damn old, putting a new hard drive in it would have cost more than the computer was worth.
Right.
And I'm like, no, Bill, you're getting a new computer today.
Mm-hmm.
What? I said, yeah, you're getting a new computer today. So I marched my happy ass down to my boss's office and said, we're buying a computer today. My boss is looking at me like, what? I said, yeah, Bill needs a new computer. He's like, no, he's sales. They don't do all that much with it. Sean, the man gets here at 7 in the morning. His computer just booted. The productivity loss alone will pay for it in a week or less. He got a new computer next day air. Gotta love that.
Yeah. All right. So I've done some predictability on psychic that plans about after the election, but our veggie psychic in the UK has decided to weigh in with her asparagus.
Oh, yes. So from the Daily Mail, Mystic Veg psychic who uses asparagus to predict the future reveals who she thinks will win the U.S. presidential election in November. So Mystic Veg says former First Lady Michelle Obama will win the U.S. election. So Kamala Harris won't be the woman to win the U.S. election this year, according to a psychic who has predicted that the next president of the United States will be Michelle Obama. Jemima Packington from Bath goes by the name of Mystic Veg and uses the power of the plant to make predictions about the future. Speaking on behalf of her observations from a bunch of asparagus, Jemima predicted last week that a lady will win the U.S. election in November later this year. She confirmed on ITV's Lorraine that she reckons Michelle Obama will be the one walking into the White House come January. Last week, the asparagus psychic went viral after she appeared on Jeremy Vine's Radio 2 morning segment, where she asked the asparagus who was going to win the U.S. election. Jeremy Vine asked, could you just gather the asparagus up and very simply ask it to tell us Biden or Trump in November? Responding to the request, Jemima said, right, I'm going to tell you it's neither of them. It's a lady, she responded, reading this mystic's message. I keep getting this. The next president of the United States is going to be a woman, she confirmed. Following the initial prediction made on the Radio 2 show last week, Lorraine presenter Christine Lampard today spoke to Jemima via video link, who described her method for predicting the future using the vegetable. Jemima explained, I would take the asparagus and then cast it on a flat surface, and it makes patterns, and I'm able to interpret the patterns and make predictions from the patterns that I see. For me, it's quite simple. For other people, it might seem a bit strange, but it's quite straightforward for me. So yeah, we've covered this psychic before.
We've talked about her. She made this prediction at the beginning of the year. Like they're going, she done 2 weeks ago. It's like, no, this was at the beginning of the year. Now let's bring this up.
Okay. Sorry, I lost the article. It actually crashed the browser tab.
That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This is the layout of the asparagus. If we're doing this like we're throwing staves or throwing sticks, we're looking for rune patterns.
Oh.
Okay. So we have the V, we have the K, we have this thorn over here. Oh, guys can't see my mouse. No, you can't.
I mean, granted, I'm sitting here and kind of looking at it, and I'm seeing patterns that spell out K-A-M. But that's just me.
Right. But I find her interesting. I've been following her recently. Well, not recently, since I discovered her last year. She's made some decent predictions. Are they always accurate? Dependable. Do I think Michelle would take it? Debatable. Do I think if we put Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris in a room and set them side by side and put sunglasses on you, that you could choose which was which? Debatable. But I find her technique interesting. Like, I don't know why. Maybe just because it's a different niche.
It is different. It is different. And then again, talking about predictions, I mean, there's nothing like we know who the next president will technically most likely be nominated as.
Mm-hmm.
The next presidential candidate to be nominated. We don't yet know who her VP pick will be.
Right.
And I'm not wishing ill on anyone. I'm really not. And I'm just saying things happen. Not encouraging in any way, shape, or form. Please don't ever take what I say as that. There's a long distance between November and January.
There is. Now,
and sometimes it could happen that someone and their VP are elected and circumstances change before the swearing in.
Well, I'm going to say this, but this is personal opinion, not psychic opinion. Please note there's a difference in that. I think that would be a powerhouse ticket.
I think it would too. I think it would be a kick-ass ticket. First lady to VP. Like that is a move. But no, I just things have occurred in the past. And it's always been, possible that it could happen that someone voted president is not the person sworn in and becomes the next president.
Well, it has occurred that way.
Right. I'm not trying to float go do this. Not at all. Don't make it true. I'm just saying there's a lot of ground to cover.
Right.
Especially between now, an election, and a swearing in.
Right.
No one saw Biden dropping out. There were calls for it, but that lasted all the way to the last second, in which Biden was like, we're going to do this.
We'll see.
And it kind of was like, record scratch, Biden dropped out.
See, okay, we're going to put on our conspiracy hat here.
Oh, you saw that TikTok too?
No, I don't think we're getting the full report.
Okay.
I really don't, and that's all I'm going to say about the matter. I don't think we're getting the full report.
That's fair. Granted, there are TikToks, and I'm just saying they exist, that have floated the idea that this could have been deliberate. That he knew from the beginning he was going to pull out.
See, I don't think that's the way it's going.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying the way that it has gone, I don't think you could plan it better.
Right.
I mean, if it's planned, then bravo. Bravo. If it isn't, I don't think you could have planned it better.
Right.
Because literally after all the attack ads on the oldest presidential candidate in history, Trump just became the oldest presidential candidate in history.
Right. But looking at it from my personal perspective, a psychic perspective,
absolutely,
I think we're not getting the full report on President Biden. I also think that we're not getting the full report on everything going on in the DNC.
Well, and I think some of that is normal.
Mm-hmm.
I also think to some degree that, like, as a very public-facing person,
mm-hmm.
there are some things I think you're entitled to a little privacy.
I think we're entitled to a lot of privacy. Not many will agree with me, but there's a lot of things that should be kept private. I also think that there's a, you know, like he was really taking a look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
But we will see. Again, I'm not making election predictions. Get over it, people. Not happening. I'm not putting my certifications at risk.
Oh, this is a different one that Shannon brings up.
Okay.
She keeps seeing the conspiracy theory about all these elderly leaders getting ill because it's the universe's way of saying time for a new order. People get worked up bad about that. I think it's a commentary worth addressing. From my perspective, I think it has a lot more to do with coincidence than any kind of great conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
The statistical realities are, as you get older, you often get sick.
Right.
And we have some of the oldest elected officials.
Mm-hmm. Which I personally think needs to be changed.
Well, and really, 10 years ago, some of these people were old. They didn't get younger 10 years later.
Well, I think that we need term limits. We have term limits on the president. We need term limits on our representatives. We need term limits on our court. Mm-hmm. We just do. Like, some of these people are so out of touch, they cannot make serious policy decisions in a meaningful way anymore.
Well, it's a much different world in like 200 and some years later.
Yeah.
It is a much different world.
It is.
I mean, 200 years ago, did it really matter if your president was 45 or 95? Not really. The world didn't change much.
Right.
There were changes. They were small, they were incremental, they were, easily wrap your head around, or most people could. Socially, we didn't change a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last 50 years, damn, like, it feels like we do monumental shifts monthly.
Right.
In, like, how we function as an adult human society. What the world requires of us, what the technology is, how it all works together, if it works together at all. Like, we've shifted a lot in 50 years. And for someone whose entire career, which Biden's is, 5 decades long, that is a lot of change to wrap one's head around.
Right.
Like, the world he started his career in and the world he's ending it in.
Right.
That is
thinking about Shannon's comment, if someone wanted to do some research, they may want to look into the Havana syndrome. I think it's called a syndrome right now. That might be interesting.
I thought we did the update story on that where they really can't necessarily find the link. It does happen.
Right.
But they can't figure out what the link is. Is that there are, oddly, a lot of people who do develop like cognitive decline, mental decline, physical decline, a whole host of symptoms, really, while involved as, ambassadors, representatives, elected officials, especially national government.
Yeah. We've talked about it.
Yeah, because again, it's kind of wild. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I had actually heard about it before we talked about it on the show, and it's one of those things that I don't know if that's going to be a truth is stranger than fiction, or fiction is stranger than the actual truth. Because it's weird. If nothing else, it's weird. It's a data anomaly from hell.
Well, this is my opinion. I think that we do not have full awareness of all things actively being used within the espionage field.
Which, nor should we. It's kind of like the presidential limo that, like, they wouldn't even, that was the whole thing I ran into this week, or last week, one. Jay Leno does, Jay Leno's Garage, because he's a really big car buff and blah, blah, blah. He got them to bring the Beast, the presidential limo, on one of his shows. He actually couldn't even film inside of it. Like, right. All they would, like, he didn't get to, because usually what happens on this is there's the film take inside while they talk about the car. And then there's a test drive, either Leno drives or is a passenger. And no, you're not allowed in the car. You can't film in the car. We can't talk about major aspects of the car. We can only kind of vaguely talk about, the security aspects of the car, but not really anything clear. Like, but at the same time, it's like, after all the time, energy, money, and everything else that went into this car as a secure method of transport.
Right.
What did you expect? Of course, you can't talk about it. Like, you don't want to be like, well, its vulnerability point is right here. And, at this angle, then yeah, it'll blow to smithereens.
See, I think that you are more likely to blow up a full naval base in water than you
And
are
to
to touch
find the
that car.
perfect point. My general theory would be at some particular point the car is gonna be vulnerable. There is something like no design is totally perfect. There's always a weak spot and a vulnerability and a thing that if you hit it just right, yes, it'll completely destroy it.
Right.
But right now, if you don't tell people where that point is and you don't talk about it, then you have a million points that you could potentially hit it and do no damage because you didn't hit the one. The minute you tell them where to hit it, guess what happens? Someone's going to try. So we don't talk about it. Like, no.
Right.
Which is fair.
And I think it's important to also note that the beast gets changed often.
Yes. It's, I think, about every president.
Well, yeah, every president
every other
gets a car, but I think the beast gets changed more than that.
It's actually from Jay Leno's garage. It's roughly every 7 to 8 years is the duty cycle up. And there's 2.
Ronald was the only one to drive a Cadillac. State car is a limo called a Caddy 1 or the Beast, which operates by the Secret Service. There's at least 10 limos.
Yes, but not all of them are the newest one.
Right.
Like the total fleet is 10 cars.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they're all the same generation of limo. It's not 10 of the same one.
Right.
So, yeah. But no, it was weird, though. Like, the things... Like, the one thing they did talk about, and it was so wild, was that, like, when they're doing... like the president is out and is doing a whatever event and they have to transport him, they're just randomly pulling into a gas station to refuel it. Which became a problem. Apparently, I think it was North Carolina. They pulled into a gas station where there had recently been a horrible rainstorm that dumped a lot of rainwater into the gas reservoir. So they literally fueled the car, started to pull out, the car died.
Oh, goodness.
So they had to actually swap vehicles.
Interesting.
So, yeah. But apparently the standard of air transport is for 2 of them.
Right.
They transport 2 of these cars everywhere by air. Yeah. Anyway, I was enamored, but it was a very awkward show because if you watch it, like I don't watch it all the time, but I've watched it enough to know the format.
Right.
And like it was a struggle to get through that show because none of the things.
Right.
You can't talk about the car, you can't film the car, you like all you can do is look at it from the outside. Like, that's it. Don't touch it. Don't. It was wild.
It's insane. I don't think it's insane. Let me rephrase that. It's interesting. What goes into building vehicles like that? Because he's not the only one that has the Beast.
Well, and I'm sure there's versions like it around the world for different monarchs and presidents, etc.
Well, monarchs, etc. Stars, like certain stars, I believe have it, or one exactly like it.
Yeah. Well, what I find interesting about it is when you really think about it, it's also how one has to kind of treat themselves when you think about it.
Right.
Is we don't go around telling everyone what our most vulnerable point is.
Right.
Like, if you hit me right here, that's where you're going to crumble me.
Mm-hmm.
A few people know that.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like the Secret Service. But not everyone's, it's not like you don't print it on a t-shirt and go, talk to me about my crippling anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Don't, like, no. Bad life choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you really want to walk around going, here's my most vulnerable spot, poke me here?
Right.
Same for the car.
All right. So let's talk about, are you an asshole?
All right. Am I the asshole for calling my best friend dumb for, quote, marrying for love? I, 27 female, am in a very stable relationship with my fiance, 29 female, for about 4 years, and we are planning to get engaged eventually and then marry. My best friend Chrissy, fake name and also 27 female, has been with her own fiance since they were 20. They only got engaged this year, and it was kind of weird how it took him so long to propose since he seemed to be financially stable and all. Throughout the years, I asked Chrissy why her fiance hadn't proposed yet, and she kept insisting it was not the right time, but she'd never say the reason why, just that it wasn't the right time. Eventually, he proposed in the beginning of 2022, and they're planning their wedding for next year. They decided to plan their engagement party during summertime because due to busy schedules, they couldn't do it earlier. So their engagement party was this past Saturday, and her fiance made a speech dedicated to her and mentioned pretty much the reasons they didn't get engaged sooner, and I couldn't help but pity my friend. So the reasons were that he didn't have a stable job for the first few years of their relationship and only jumped from position to position from Walmart to Target, etc. He hadn't finished his degree yet, so he had no higher education. He got his degree in 2019 and only then was able to get a proper job. He bragged and also thanked Chrissy for never giving up on him and growing with him, and how they've helped each other from their amazing personalities and achievements, and how no matter what the future holds, he'll never forget, etc. My fiance and I felt some type of way about it. Some friends of mine and Chrissy agreed how Chrissy basically stayed with a broke man and waited for 7 years, and we don't think that's something praiseworthy, but pity-worthy. As friends, we decided to explain to her our perspective of how we think it was ridiculous that she had to almost reach 30 to move on with her life with that man when someone else could provide what she needed much sooner. Chrissy always said how she wanted marriage and kids, and it's sad she had to wait this long for this man to get his act together, and she didn't know her worth. She said she loves him and he's an amazing partner and wouldn't break up with him over his misfortunes, and what matters is that they love each other. I told her it's dumb how she's marrying for love and not for stability, and how she's basically wasted herself for love, and how the first issue should be raised when he was working Walmart and Target back to back. She called us all materialistic and classist, and she said she doesn't care if she struggles financially as long as she struggles with the right person who will value her emotions and listen to her. She said we are miserable bitches who will find no happiness in life and are very shallow. Could we be the assholes for criticizing her this way?
Yes.
Oh, God. I'm sorry, pot kettle what? I'm sorry. You are a 27-year-old female who is just now getting married or planning your wedding, and you want to talk about your 27-year-old, same age as you, female friend who is also just now getting ready to get married. Meanwhile, what? Like, how do you feel you're better than her? How you spent 7 years looking for someone ready-made to provide you with all the stability you needed.
Right.
And you hope that works out. Like, I do. I hope it works out for you. She spent like 7 years in a relationship, not sure if it was going to ever lead to marriage, but willing to stick around and work through it. Like the struggles, the degree, the whole shebang. And it has worked out, at least to the point that they're getting ready to get married.
Right.
And you somehow think that her 7 years were a waste, but your years getting to the same point weren't. And so now you're going to marry someone that I'm assuming you've only been together for like a year or two. Because if you're judging 7 years this harshly as a waste, I doubt you're waiting very long after meeting Mr. Right. Your ready-made, perfect to marry husband, future husband, or future wife, excuse me, that you think this is what?
Yeah.
Like it. Like you.
I don't know. I've had this conversation with a number of people before.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, 4 years. I just caught it.
Right.
So yeah, but like what?
I've had this conversation with a number of people before as I'm getting into relationships, as I'm in relationships, and it drives me batty. It's like, honey, if I will, and I've had very affluent husbands before, very comfortable affluent husbands, and they've been okay. I've had poor as damn church mouse husbands, and they've really done some accomplishments. And I think that, people think they're doing a service, making things better, or, trying to save you from heartache or from a hard time. When they pull this shit, like, he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have a career, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. He's not equal to you in assets.
I mean, I think it says a lot. If you can manage a relationship in less than ideal circumstances, if you can still manage to actually want to be around that person at all, even, then you already know what the bad is and what it will be like. And you can still at least tolerate this human being. At least. So if you are moving forward into a positive, stable situation, then it only gets better.
Right. Well, but I've been on the other side of that fence with affluent husbands that are much more in trouble. I will tell you, give a man a gold card, give a man a platinum card, give a man a black card, and just sit there and watch the insanity going on.
Potentially. Very economically stable, horrible partner. But like what I was calling attention to is OP, you've been in a 4-year relationship and it's only been the good.
Right.
Like you wouldn't settle, quote unquote, for anything less. So you had to have someone and they had to be at their best.
Right.
Like you took nothing less. That's an option, but just saying, you started there. You have no clue what the bad could look like.
Well,
like, you have no idea. You don't know if in 2 years this all goes belly up and you hate this bitch.
Well, not only that, but you don't know how to operate out of that space. It's like you've been building your business. You're doing amazing and well. We've launched a couple of things together. It is what it is. But those have been our most creative, our most fighting times, our most harder times. But at the same time, it's like, and you made this comment early in our relationships, and I about laughed in your face about it. One of these days, your career will be Avon money. And I laughed at it.
Oh, well, no, you didn't laugh at it. You got very mad and defensive about it.
Well, I've always been pissy about it. Like, I will be pissy about it.
Well, no, and in my defense, I was looking at going into cybersecurity, and that was starting at that point at a minimum 6-figure salary.
Yeah.
Like, minimum to expect in this. And that's what I was looking at doing, or starting Mystic Computers.
Right.
And it was literally that if I go into cybersecurity, I mean, long term, not trying to ever be mean about it, it's not that it's bad money. It's just, or you could work Avon and pull as much, or you could do anything you wanted, and it's not going to be the kind of money that determines whether or not we eat this week.
Well, true, and I get your statement from that, but
yeah,
and also you didn't understand the full scope of the business at this time.
Honey, there are days I don't think I'll ever understand the full scope of the business.
Understandable. I mean, I've got a few things in the meal, and you still can't get payroll right.
Okay, but
yeah.
Such as it is. Yeah, no, trying to keep up with when you get paid and how you get paid and what the requirements are to get. No.
Yeah.
Every company you work for has a whole different process. For how they run the percentages, how they run the fees, when in the transaction they run it. Then there's the, some pay out on a minimum, some pay out whatever you earn, some... It goes on and on and on and on. And then there's the what day do they pay is a whole other formula.
And what day they stop and what day. I can sort this out in my head on a Tuesday.
Right. Well, and some of that is experience with it. Some of it is it's you're directly dealing with it.
Exactly.
But to try to sit there and map it all out, it's like, good God, I don't need to know this.
Well, not only that, but I think at that time in the business, you only knew one of the tiers.
Well, I mean, we could debate that all night long. It is complicated.
Yeah.
If you wanted to track it yourself and do, but if you wanted to track it yourself with that many different networks and payors, it's confusing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what deposits do we come in? That's what really matters towards do we have money coming in to pay this, or do we need to run around like Swedish Chef in a fire? Where are we? Somewhere, hopefully, between the two.
We are heavily and comfortably floating. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably the most traumatic words to know. Well, it's not that I haven't made money. I just don't have it yet. It's in the air.
Right.
We're floating at the moment till the money gets here.
Right. And that's why, yesterday, whatever. The story from Friday, I don't think people understood the graphical effect in the industry. And psychics are losing their shit because they've timed stuff down to the last damn second.
Yeah. And it's a massive, and it gets very very stressful.
Right.
There's no other word for it.
Yeah.
The way that the networks pay,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if you're with one that is like a super payer, as in they're the largest chunk. You run into something like CrowdStrike, and just the level of unknowns that occur there. Do you have are they using a company that pays you through a company that uses CrowdStrike?
Right.
Do they use a payment card processor that uses CrowdStrike? Do they themselves use CrowdStrike? Are they functional? Like, it was a whole moment of like, are the networks up?
Right.
Can the networks process cards so you can take calls?
Right.
Are they going to be able to get their payments out on time to all of their advisors?
Right.
You don't know. And some companies didn't know until they tried to do it and then went, oh, shit.
Well, I work 14 networks right now. I've gotten 11 notices.
Payments delayed.
Payments delayed. Investigating payments. Most of them should be fine because most of them pay the 1st through the 15th. Somewhere in there, throw a dartboard. Or bigger suppliers are in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a harsh reality, especially when you're talking about things like processing out. Technically, I don't think it's called payroll because you're not employees. So it'd technically internally be processing accounts payable.
Right.
But when you're talking about processing accounts payable, and especially for like daily deposits, which are actually delayed a few days because of the process.
Right.
Any kind of slowdown, shutdown, malfunction in that, the problems just end up like they're a multi-car pileup. Is like, because it's not just one business affected. It's like, well, anyone who uses the service is also affected. So any problems get magnified as everyone rushes to try to push out their payroll, accounts payable, whatever. And it just starts stacking up as you saturate these systems.
Right.
So yeah, it becomes a massive problem for any business that's even remotely attached.
Right. And then you've got the other secondary and third-tier incomes that we're still waiting to see, because I won't get reports on those incomes to the 1st. And
it may all be taken care of and not a problem by then.
Exactly. And it
may just miss them.
Right. But this is like content payments and reoccurring copyrights and that. Aeson's got fingers in pies and tomatoes that scare people.
Yeah. Well, more importantly, traumatized banks.
Yes.
Like, and that's the weirdest thing, and probably one of the wildest ones to try to explain to new advisors is you need to talk to your bank. And it's always the same expression, why do I need to talk to my bank? You don't understand what you're about to get into in terms of some banks will throw a major glitch just over how you get paid. Because it is not a consistent number and it can occur up to daily.
Actually, there's a few platforms I'm not on that pay out hourly.
What? Oh, yeah. God, pay to PayPal. Please pay to PayPal. Good Lord, don't run that through a bank.
Oh, no, they have it to where you can run it straight to your bank. Hourly. Transactional.
I want to know what bank actually can manage that without blowing a gasket.
E-Trade Financial.
Oh, good.
Royal UK Bank. The other one is Bank Royal. Those are the only two banks that can handle that transactional flow.
Yeah, literally, you get, like, you take a call, you get an immediate deposit. You take a call, you get an immediate deposit.
Mm-hmm.
You take a call, oh, God, our bank would blow a gasket. And they're really good. Like, they technically don't really have a problem with how you get paid.
No,
like, they had a moment in the beginning. They're a little slow on processing, but on the actualities of it, they don't have a problem with, because you get, like, what, 60-some deposits a month? Like, technically, you can get paid up to twice a day. It really isn't that bad. But if you average it out, I'm just saying there's some days you might get 8 deposits. It may be less than I'm thinking. It might be in the 50s. It's a lot of deposits. Like, that one section of our bank statement, like, oh, good Lord, they fucked up and sent us a paper statement. We about died.
On an average month, without holidays, and without counting privates.
Uh-huh.
Oh, let's go ahead and add that in there because we really should.
Oh, yeah, because then there's the money you pull down from PayPal.
On average, with all systems full, 84 payments.
Yeah, that's 84 deposits in a month. 84 deposits.
Uh-huh.
From varying sources
in
a month.
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand why banks throw a glitch. This is abnormal. Mm-hmm. They are used to, you work a W-2 job, you go to the same cube farm, whatever, clerk stand, dealership, whatever, they pay you twice a month, maybe 3 times. It's usually within a minor range of difference what the payment is, so it's very predictable.
Right.
And that's it. That your deposit section on your statement is like this big. His is pages. Plural pages.
Right.
Like, it is it feels like to a bank, every little microtransaction. And it's like, what do you do? Like, and literally ran into that. What do you do? Because they're like, they have no clue what the hell they're looking at.
Right. Well, what the biggest glitch they ever threw was when they began getting wire transfers from New Zealand.
Oh, well, and that had probably more to do with that company could not figure out how to actually properly send the damn payment.
You're thinking of the Dutch company.
Oh, yeah. They were the ones that screwed up all the time.
Yes, sorry. They're the ones that screw up all the time. And that's one of the main reasons I left them.
Yeah. The Dutch company forgets to change the currency.
Yeah, they forget.
And that kicks off a whole other series problem.
Because our small little bank has to figure out what the EU currency is and transfer it to EU and transfer it to Dutch, and then the Dutch to EU. It's a long fucking thing. And I'm like, well, we're done.
Basically, what they were doing is they were paying you in their local currency through wire transfer. So that meant it hit our bank in the wrong currency, had to be currency converted, which incurs a fee. Sometimes the fee for the currency conversion was more than the deposit.
Right.
At which point you have to contact them for them to lift it.
Right.
Add to it the amount you just paid in a fee, because the bank does not refund that even if they lift the deposit.
Right.
Side note. Add the currency conversion to it. Currency convert it to US dollars and pay the fee themselves. So they now paid it twice. And then send it in US dollars.
Right.
You want to talk about a process that is slow.
Yes.
Oh my God. Every time it happened, it was always at the worst moment. It would hit the bank account, get eaten by its own fee. So even if there was money left, it was like, well, great, thanks.
Yeah.
You know, like, yee. Now we can't touch it. We have to call, you had to connect with them and let them know you have to lift that.
Right.
I got charged this much for the currency conversion, so you have to add that.
Mm-hmm.
Currency converted on your end and pay your fee for it, and then send it back in US dollars. Roughly 3 weeks.
If not 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a nightmare. The Indian company was also a nightmare. So international, like I'm really appreciative of Life Reader. They're my new Australian company.
Oh, they're great.
Oh, they
like, I don't think we've had any problem.
No.
Like, they've been great. Now the Indian company's real problem was that they kept swearing up and down that no, we're paying you in US dollars.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pay you this much in US dollars, and then they kept paying you not the deposit. They sent the deposit correctly.
Right.
They pre-did the currency conversion, but the way they ran the numbers, you were getting paid that rate, but in rupees.
Right.
And it was a way drastic difference.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, no. That is a fraction, a hair-sized fraction of what you actually owe me.
Exactly. All right, so let's hop into relationship advice now that we've bored everybody with accounting.
I know, but it's actually
poll
kind of
is
fun.
up.
It's kind of fun.
It is.
Yeah, so what do you do after you break up? 32 female and 33 male together 10 years. We were together for 10 years, but sometimes things just don't work out. The things you never said cause so much damage. It hurts so much when two people who love each other with everything they have couldn't make it work. How do you move on from something that was perfect, but you were both scared to face fear, so buried it all down until the relationship exploded? The TLDR is we broke up, but I don't actually know what to do next. There is no hate, just grief. Is there a process? Oh, you haven't got the hate yet.
The hate will come.
Oh,
what do? You go for your next job promotion. You get a haircut. You get your nails done. You get your ass in the gym. You lose 100 pounds, and then you take on the world.
Well, I think you start personally. I think you start at if and you specifically, OP, with the realization if it were perfect, you'd still be together.
Mm-hmm.
One, most relationships are not perfect, even when people stay together for their entire lives.
Right.
So your use of the word perfect, I'm going to take it in the normal sense, is that for all good, like, there's no good reason this ended. You just kept explaining the good reason that it ended. And It is clearly that this was never going to work.
Right.
You tried to make it work. You did do your best. I think you both did. So you're having trouble finding the animosity to have, which is a good thing. But the reality is this didn't work for the very good reason that you were, burying yourselves and hiding yourselves from each other. And I think you have to, in the grief process, because we grieve failing relationships that end, however you want to say it. In that grief process, you're going to find anger. Not necessarily at them, but because this didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. You're going to go through a lot of things with this. And all of them are okay. But somewhere in there, you need to figure out that the reason this didn't work is because you weren't yourself in this relationship. Because primary advice number one for any relationship is if you have to pretend to be someone else, whether you do that by whole cloth generating a whole different human being or by burying parts of yourself and hiding, generally doesn't work.
It won't.
And the relationship will explode because two people who don't exist are in a relationship.
Right. And that's even a bigger problem. But no, what do you do next? Well, you move forward. You move forward hard. I will guarantee you, people that have gone through divorces get a new job, a new career, a new hairstyle, a new way of life. They reinvent themselves to who they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And be very outspoken about who you are.
Yeah.
Like, that's the relief of this being over, is you can go be yourself now.
Right.
So do that to the max. That's what you need to do now, is go be yourself. Go do all the things you haven't done.
Right. And embrace that person.
Mm-hmm.
Really and truly embrace every bit of them for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll find who you want. When you're in the jobs position you want. When you've decided that, no, I'm having a glass of wine every night, fuck them.
Yep.
I'm painting the house. I'm redecorating. I'm moving to Timbuktu.
I hate yoga.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, some of the reasons, when you actually boil it down to like why, like, it becomes this great big giant exploded relationship thing. And when you boil it down, you sometimes find it's, she made me do yoga. Mm-hmm. I hate yoga.
Mm-hmm.
She made me, or you know what I mean, is sort of where it becomes right. Statement wise. So no, embrace it.
Right.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That's not you. There's nothing wrong with yoga. There's nothing wrong with eating salads. There's nothing wrong with, but it's not you. You did that for them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, I'm just throwing examples. It's right. Not you. So don't walk into your next relationship and immediately jump on the bandwagon mm-hmm. of doing things that you don't like.
Right. Well, and the other part of that is don't do the things that you never could get done with them. Mm-hmm. And we have seen this many times with our friends. They'll go through these huge divorces, these just heart-wrenching things. And it's like the only reason they do any of the life change is because it's to piss off their ex.
Don't. Oh, yeah. Please don't do that.
Don't. Do it for you.
Oh. Like, yeah, no. Because, I mean, one, if you want to really talk about the grief process and grieving an ex or how, again, however you want to word it, you want to tell everyone around you that you're not over your ex, keep doing things to spite them.
Mm-hmm.
Keep doing things to spite them. You're not over them. If that is your drive,
right,
is to show your ex, that relationship's not over for you.
Right.
I don't know how to say it any more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not over for you. You haven't finished your grief process. You think you finished your grief process. You did not.
And 1 month for every year.
Absolutely on your own, without trying to date.
Right.
Get to know yourself. Bare minimum. Take your time.
Exactly. And there is no ticking clock. There is no clock that says, you've not been in a relationship for a month. You have to go date. No. 1 month for every year. Go be you. If you want to hook up, hook up. I ain't talking hook up. I'm talking serious relationship.
Mm-hmm. If you're talking about moving in,
mm-hmm.
If you're talking about relocating,
mm-hmm.
changing jobs, combining finances, that's a serious relationship.
Right.
If you might be able to give someone's full first and last name,
mm-hmm.
that's a hookup. That's a fuck toy. That's a whatever it is, and it's fine. Go do that. Enjoy that. Have fun with that. Right. Do not try to marry that person.
No.
Don't do that. If many months later it works out that way, that's great. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to push it. Like,
right. If you can't tell somebody, if you can't go and pick up fast food
mm-hmm.
without having to ask what they want, That's not a serious relationship.
You don't know someone's allergies and have to be repeatedly told.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a serious relationship.
Exactly.
I think the other one I would point out that also drives me nuts, if you get upset because your ex is in a relationship, getting married, whatever, if that upsets you, you're not over them.
No.
Please understand that. If the idea that someone else or that they are getting married, that they are in a relationship, that they are moving in with their new significant other, makes your head explode, seek therapy.
Yes.
You're not over them. There is something you haven't dealt with, because you should just be like, cool.
Great.
And move on with your life. It should not make your head explode and send you into a drunken, nasty spiral.
Right. All right. So let's go check the poll. Okay, he froze. Oh, I'm checking the poll.
Sensory eater like me.
Oh, come on.
Yes, I was reading Shannon's comment. Unless they're a picky sensory eater like me.
Interesting. This is a 50-50 split.
Ooh, really?
Really?
Please tell me not the asshole isn't one of them.
The 50-50 split is, yes, you're the asshole for telling your best friend who actually put work into a relationship. And no, you're not an asshole for telling them. Yes, it is a 50-50 split, guys.
Ooh, did someone just misclick?
No, we're not questioning it.
Okay, we're not questioning it. All right. Okay.
All right. So with that, take it over.
All right. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, Devin, and Maria Meyer. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com. Oh, so you're half-assed, Joe.
Now, to our podcast listeners, you guys can comment down in the comment box. We have new comment boxes. Use them. Your thoughts on either of the topics brought up tonight. We enjoy your comments. And if it's a question, you can expect it to be replied to probably within the next 2 weeks of the show.
Absolutely. And I do want to reply quickly to Brenda. Technically, at 50-50, I'm going to call myself Schrodinger's butt.
That works.
I thought it was a good one.
Yeah. All right, guys. We will see you later. Bye, y'all.
Bye.